All right, guys. So I'm going to show you how to make a stay wet palette for acrylic paint. I'm going to show you two ways of doing this. This is the first way. What you'll need for this first way is a flat tray that has a little bit of a lip on it the whole way around. Okay. You're going to need some grease-proof paper or baking paper, right? You can pick this up in any pawn shop. Scissors for cutting the baking paper to size. And what I've used is floor cloths that I got from Deals. So these are just a pack of floor cloths that I found in Deals, and I used two of them. One on top of the other. So I used two of them, as I said, one on top of the other like this. Okay. Again, these are easy to pick up, but if you have your own floor cloths, the main thing is to make sure that they're white and that they can absorb water. Right, so when you have your floor cloths placed onto the tray, you're going to need a jug of water. Right, what you want to do, make sure your cloths are flat. You want to pour water onto the cloths to get them quite saturated. Okay, now these cloths were a little bit wet from earlier. I was already working with this, so you might need to pour more water on yours when you come to yours. So that's quite wet now. You can see that my hand is a little bit wet, but it's not so wet that it's pouring out everywhere. You don't want that either. All right, so when you have your cloth soaked right up to the edges, what you'll do then is you'll get your greaseproof paper, place it on top of the cloths. You're going to cut it to size. And what you want to do is you want to smooth as best you can the greaseproof paper over the cloth. So if the cloths are wet enough, this should be easy enough. There might be a few little wrinkles, but try to get rid of as many of the wrinkles as you can. Okay, and then you have a stay wet palette. So what you'll do then is when you put your acrylic paint on this, the moisture comes up from below from the cloths and keeps the paint wet. You'll keep it wet for, depending on your own house, how warm it is and the humidity and stuff, but my paint has been kept wet for 2 or 3 days on the stay wet palette. That doesn't mean it stays wet on your actual canvas or paper that you're painting on, but it just gives you a chance to mix paints here and have them for the next day rather than try to mix them up again. Also, what you could do if your lip was high enough, you could wrap everything in cling film when you're finished for the day and put it somewhere cold, and that'll help keep the paint moist as well. So yeah, keep your paints in a cold spot, because otherwise the plastic and the acrylic paint will just dry out. So this is a handy little palette. I advise using this particular method if you can, because it's nice and big and it gives you plenty of space for mixing paint. So that's the first way to make a stay wet palette. The second way is if you don't have a tray, you can use a plate, but just make sure that the plate has a lip on it. You're going to need some kitchen towel and some greaseproof paper. I've already cut this. So in this case, what you do is you get your kitchen towel and you layer up a few layers. Okay. Then you get your water. And you wet your kitchen towel until it's quite saturated. . That's quite saturated there. And then you get the greaseproof paper. There's no right or wrong side to the greaseproof paper, so that's okay. And you place it down on top of the kitchen towel. You squish it in. And you can cut off the excess so it doesn't annoy you. It doesn't have to be perfect softly, but just so that there isn't greaseproof paper getting in your way when you're mixing the paints. Make sure that's all squished down well. Okay, so that's a smaller version of a Stay Wet palette. I would advise using the tray because it just gives you more space. And as you're working with it, if you're finding that it's beginning to dry out, all you need to do is pull back the greaseproof paper. Be careful because there will be paint on your greaseproof paper, and just add more water. So I'll show you that again using the tray. So let's say you come back. I'm actually going to show you one with where I have paint on it already. So this paint is about 2 or 3 days old and it's still wet because the Stay Wet palette is keeping it wet. So let's say after a day or two, your tray is beginning to get a little bit dry, so just carefully lift up your greaseproof paper and add more water and tap it down where you can. That's your that's your Stay Wet palette. All right. So go and make yourself one of these, preferably a tray, as I said, because it gives you plenty of space. You can see that I used all of my palette, making my grayscale value scale, which we'll be doing later. So good luck.